right, guys. Hey, sorry about that. So we just
quick rehearsal.
We were talking to
rehearsal.
We were talking internally. We are live. We are ready to go. We've got a lot to cover in a short period of time, so I'm going to do some very quick introductions, and we're going to roll right in. So, Nicole, you are one of the most prolific and influential content creators across fintech. When we talk about AI, I mean, you've been on top of this technology. You've been covering brands that have utilized AI, similar technologies that ChatGPT is now making widely available. You've been covering brands who've been utilizing this for a long time. So I'm excited to hear what you think about its application specific to fintech marketing. And then Samantha, you have influenced and driven so much innovation in content creation and distribution across financial services. I'm sure everybody who's tuned into here has come across your content and your posts, and I'm sure a lot of them have worked with you in the past as well, and currently work with you. So, I think I want to start the conversation talking about content creation. And there's a lot more to talk about. We will get to other avenues of this. But when it comes to content creation, Nicole, I'll start with you. Are you down with GPT?
I love this question. So I have actually been using, and I'm going to shout out my friend Trung Phan, who actually created his own AI platform. It's called Bearly AI, and it is specifically for bear, like a teddy bear. And it is specifically used for, it's similar to ChatGPT in a way, but it's specifically used for writing, for content creators. And my current viewpoint on it, and I think that this kind of applies to anyone creating content, is that while I don't use it to write my articles for me, I do use it as a brainstorming tool, as something that gives me that, writer's block moment and to surpass that, and that to me is one of the best use cases for it, is really more of an idea sparking tool than something, because just to explore what else is out there that I'm not hitting, and this in particular, this tool has you can look for counter arguments, things that can go against the way that you're maybe writing or thinking about something. So really more of a mind stretch than actually using it to write. Otherwise, I don't know. That might go against what I do.
Oh, for sure. No, but that's been one of the areas where I've been most impressed just using this technology, is the creativity aspect of it. When you're developing good prompts and you know what you're looking for, it'll surprise you sometimes. Sometimes it'll come up dry.
Yeah.
That's like any human writer. They're not all going to be winners.
Right. Well, and I would say Sam, I would say
I was just going to say to that, I think the prompts are everything with using it to help you. If you ask it for something and then you could say, okay, I want it in a more informal tone, or if you're trying to help it come up with headlines, for instance, for an article, a lot of people don't realize this, you can copy and paste the whole article that you've already written, put it in there and say, give me a headline or a title for this article. And then it can give you one. And then you could say, okay, but now give me a headline that includes emojis, is no more than this many characters, and has more of a tongue-in-cheek, tone to it. Or you can say make it more button up and professional, and so you can kind of banter with it, which I love it for that capability for sure.
Yeah, the headline capability is really, really dope. I actually will say I've used it definitely for that. But I would also say the biggest risk when it comes to the content creation element is accuracy, right? You really can't fully trust. It's not mature enough at this time. I've definitely seen some pretty inaccurate claims being made by ChatGPT, and whether or not it got someone's age right, or got someone's even ethnicity correct. When I say write a intro about so and so kind of influential human, it doesn't always get that right, and so for that it's a little it's dicey. I have to make sure that I'm paying attention to all of the facts that it's claiming are real.
and let's talk about some of the areas where it does fall short. I think anybody listening to this realize it's not a replacement for human writing. It is a tool to enhance your content creation capabilities and the volume and the consistency that you can operate those from. And you know, anybody listening to this who has invested heavily in their own content creation efforts know it's all about consistency. But sometimes you don't have time to keep up with the consistency. So this can be a huge time saver if used properly. But let's talk about the limitations. I mean, what I've seen is sometimes it's pulling old information that's inaccurate, especially when we're talking about financial services, when we're talking about the regulatory environment. It's constantly changing from year to year. You know, certain rules and provisions and so forth. If it's pulling from data from 3-4 years ago, it's not going to be accurate. And it's not sophisticated enough to know that. So you need an actual human brain eyeballing this before you publish it, or you could publish inaccurate information. We talked earlier, it's all about the prompt. If you're giving it bad prompts, you're going to get bad content. I tweeted the other day, I used Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as an example. You know, people, there's this myth that Frankenstein was the monster. Frankenstein was the doctor that created the monster. Right. If you're putting in bad prompts, you are Dr. Frankenstein. It's not the monster's fault.
Right.
I mean, always going back to like the element that it always is the humans right behind the machines that make this all, you know, possible. It's, you know, it's like, is an algorithm less biased than, you know, a loan officer? Or even to this to Sarah's question around like, will clients rely more on ChatGPT for financial advice than a CFP? I really hope not. And we should make it clear that shouldn't be the case. Because as we've said, right, there could probably be, I have yet to ask ChatGPT about financial advice, but there could be some,
you know, I have an interesting take on this question too. You know, the way I look at it is look at, you know, the tax world, right? How many people go and actually use a CPA to file their taxes versus how many people use like a TurboTax or an H&R Block? The H&R Block or the TurboTax, you're putting in an input and it's giving you an output based on the data you enter. So for a non-complicated situation, it works fine. If you have a question just like, when's the earliest I can claim Social Security, ChatGPT can answer that the same way Google can answer that right now. But if you have a much more complicated scenario, you know, you need to know what questions to ask in order to get the advice, which is where the human comes in. Now, of course, you could say to ChatGPT, what question should I ask you? And it can give you a list, but you know, we're not at the point right now where you're putting in, this is how old I am, this is how many assets I have, all of this information, and then this assistant, this robot is going to give you a financial plan. And so, you know, I think the same way people were so nervous about robo-advisors replacing advisors, I feel like it's very similar.
Exactly. The robo-advisor was nothing more than a jumping off point to just get more people interested in what the next element is, right? Okay, so I can get automated investments from a, you know, a finance app basically, right? But what that next experience is a human. And that's really what all of this AI discussion really goes back to, is the experience, right? Really the chatbot journey is, I don't know if you've ever used a chatbot to try to speak to your bank or finances, but it's really not the best experience. And it usually leads me to just want to talk to a human as fast as possible. And so that to me is such an influential point, is that how are you going to change chatbots to be something so intelligent that it actually becomes an IDA or an intelligent digital assistant that can actually speak to you like a real human.
So there's a lot. I mean, on the content creation side, there's so much to talk about. That's not the extent of the conversation around the changes in technology that we're seeing. I mean, before we move on to some of those other angles, I mean, when we're talking about fintech startups, when we're talking about RIAs who want to scale, get to the next level, I mean, what are the right ways that they can use this tech specific to content creation?
I think one of the things that is really, really interesting, you know, we talk about what's maybe not going to change overnight, but I do think to look at the next year or two and what will change with all of these AI tools. And I think we're going to see a really big shift in people, I feel like up until now, of course, advisors always say the number one way they grow is through referrals. But then after that, when we look at, okay, what are the next most popular, a lot of people will tell me that they get more organic traffic, whether it's local traffic or, for certain terms, and that organic traffic from search engine optimization is driving more people than social is, video, podcasting, social media. I think that is going to change, because as these AI tools are getting better and better at giving people a general idea of what the right answer is, I think people are going to spend less time on the SERP, the search engine result page, digging through looking at potential websites to go get an answer. And so that exposure to a firm is going to come a lot more from social media, podcasts, videos, than it will from SEO. That's my prediction.
Oh, really interesting. I think, I go on stages often and share how one of the best marketing tools for a financial advisor is their story, is to actually, loosen the button and tie a little bit and actually share what your personal story is. I think that's everyone's big secret weapon that not a lot of people tap into. And there's actually a lot of, almost training, if you will, and processes to actually get to the point where you can dig deep enough and find the proper way to actually tell your story that resonates well with a future client or, a consumer that wants to work with you because they want to feel a part of your community. And I just don't think a chatbot or an AI tool is necessarily capable of doing that, right? No one can tell your story better than you. And so when it comes to that kind of marketing, right, I don't see chatbots taking that over. But to use it once again as like a tool for sparking an idea, right? Maybe you write your notes of your story and you put it into a chatbot and see if they can, change the wording or make it more, you can do one of the things like make it more engaging, make it more fun, make it more this, then that works, but it's never going to be able to tap into who you are.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and so I think that's a good point to kind of pivot and talk about how this is changing more than just content marketing and the way content is developed and ideas are developed and so forth. Now we're seeing an arms race between Google and Microsoft. I'm going to talk about Bing. A year ago, last time we did one of these was a year ago. Did you guys have any idea 12 months later we were talking about Bing as our relevant, platform? But here we are. There might be people listening who don't even really fully understand Bing. Bing is, the forgotten, stepchild of the search engine, battle. When you think of search engine, you think of Google. That's starting to shift, I think, and we might not agree with this, and I think that's healthy. For us to share unique takes here and at what we're seeing and how this is going to impact digital marketing going forward.
And I just have to say, too, one of the things that I find so interesting is even before this whole AI arms race started, okay? Back in the summertime, I actually had this whole tweet thread that I put together because this astounded me. I read this article that there was a TechCrunch conference that happened, and one of Google's top executives was there, and he said that what they were tracking and really paying attention to was that almost 40% of Gen Z was using TikTok or Instagram for search rather than Google. And so they have this whole thing that they've been doing. Like right now, if everybody on this goes and searches Mexico City or Stockholm or some city on your phone, you'll see that in the search engine results, what they give you looks a lot more like something you'd find on Instagram. There's like pictures, a video, what the current temperature is. And it's very visual focused because they're realizing how much search traffic they're losing because people want to visually be immersed in what the results are. So even before, we had this AI arms race, Google is paying attention to the fact that younger people were, going to Google to find answers, and they were already starting to go some of these other platforms. And this has just accelerated that. Sorry, we can get more into the other, which platform is going to come up heads above the others. But I think again, these shifts go beyond even just AI and more just the way we use media in general to find what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean the Bing. I agree with you, Sam. And then the Bing element. I mean, I'm curious about y'all's takes on this.
Oh, I'll elaborate for sure. All right,
Yeah.
so here's Microsoft's big edge, especially when it comes to professional services marketing, financial services marketing. Microsoft 365 is a very powerful suite, of tools and apps that are very popular in financial services and professional services. Now, with the release of Microsoft Edge, which is their product to their browser to compete with Chrome directly, now it's pretty cool the way it's set up, where you can search your internal files in the same engine that you're searching outside files on the internet and outside information on the internet. And when you link AI into that, that's powerful, because now that AI can touch information that's not yet public. It can touch your email. Now, are there security concerns and threats that come along with something that powerful? Of course. And that's a conversation for I think a different day. I'm talking about from the marketing perspective. From a marketing perspective and content generation perspective and whatnot, I think Microsoft Edge, which includes Bing and includes 365 and LinkedIn and everything else, I think they're well positioned to really compete, especially for financial services firms.
Yeah, I just posted in the chat.
I know, I'm looking.
There was this great article I had read yesterday or the day before from Business Insider, where they asked ChatGPT and Bing 20 different questions and then compared the responses. And they actually said that Bing did better on general knowledge, budgeting, and planning, but ChatGPT was better at like quick summaries or writing a letter to a friend, poetry, things like that. So from our industry, financial services, it seems like Bing has an edge right
now. Yes, I was at lunch with some coworkers before this, and one of my coworkers who's like internet obsessed, I mean, like all of us, he was sharing about how Bing's version, however, apparently is like argumentative and sassy, and like coming back at you, and that itself is like a little alarming. I'm not sure if like we wanted the AI bots to have that much human element to it, to where it starts to like seemingly feel things for how you respond to it. But I think that is one of the kind of risks as well, because that to me can bring up, not only like feelings for the human, but also any type of like future inaccuracies, right? It's like, is an AI capable of getting like sassy enough to where it also starts to spew inaccurate information? I don't know. Yeah, Nikki saw that article. Exactly. So I feel like the part about AI that is interesting isn't the technology itself, it's its ability to mature at a faster pace than it ever has before. And I just don't know if I'm like, I love that this discussion is happening overall, but I just don't know if I'm seeing these AI bots that we're working with now actually like reach that level of maturity, right? And then it also kind of goes back to who is creating them, right? Because algorithms end up being just as biased as anything else, depending on who is actually creating them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let's talk about practical application too, beyond just content generation. I'll tell you, for my business, so those who don't know me, I own a public relations agency, Flackable. We specialize in working with wealth management firms and then a lot of service providers who cater to wealth management firms. As part of public relations, one of the big things that we're doing is constantly trying to find new media contacts and influencers that we can put our clients in front of. So the other day, I asked my AI chat application to give me a list of the names, emails, and outlets of the top 50 personal finance writers in the country. It spit it out in 10 seconds. That would have taken one of my interns days to finish. It spit it out in 10 seconds, and I combed through it. It was good. It was precise.
Right. And even if there's a few emails that are outdated, who cares?
Yeah.
Fix that.
So 10 seconds as opposed to 10 plus hours of work with that one request. So there is absolutely more practical application when it comes to financial services marketing and PR beyond just the content creation aspect of it. I mean, Sam, are you seeing any other, avenues where this can get plugged right into marketing processes and really accelerate the process?
One of the things that, I find people just have the hardest time with is coming up with what to put in a social media post. Like, they will spend the time to create the video or create the podcast or write the blog post, or even if they have someone do that part for them, when it comes time to share it, they don't know what to say in a way that's going to be, attractive to people, make them want to click, summarize the key points, but keep it to a certain number of characters. And so I think one of the best use cases right now is that you can go to these AI assistants, you can give them your article or give them the transcript of your video and say, can you summarize this in X number of characters, use emojis, have the first line be a really interesting stat or hook, or ask a question. And then if it gives you one and you don't love it, you can take that, what they gave you, copy it, re-enter it, and say, okay, now make this shorter or change the first line. And the more that you work with it, especially ChatGPT, the more it starts to know what style you like and what your voice is, which is a really interesting part of the tool. And then, it can help you personalize it. But, if you're not creating social media posts that, so many people still have just basically like, I wrote a new blog post about Roth IRAs. Go here to click it and read it. And nobody does, because that is not the kind of content on social media that gets clicked. The zero-click content, right, where you're giving away the salient points up front and making people get the meat of what you're talking about is really what wins. So whether it's a Twitter thread, a 2,000-character LinkedIn post, this is a great tool to help you create the social post to promote the content you did create.
Yeah. I would say that, and like I said, I am more of a barely AI user when it comes to actually content creation and other tools, by the way. So anyone listening that actually wants like kind of my toolbox for creating and writing my newsletter and all of that good stuff, I use barely AI. I use Otter AI, which transcribes all of my notes, my interviews, all of that good stuff, so that when I interview someone, I'm properly paying attention to them. I imagine advisors could have a lot of use for Otter AI. I've been using that for years, since
so people could just be with their client and use that tool.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's on my phone, it's on my computer, and it's as easy, and it's linked to my calendar, so it knows immediately when I have a meeting, and it records everything. So I can always go back, I can look at it from my notes and it even breaks out key points that happened in that meeting. So if you're like, oh, they said that, I remember, and you can click, oh, embedded finance. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. I remember. Anyway, an amazing tool, highly recommend. And then the third one, which I'm not really sure is necessarily AI, but is actually Grammarly. Grammarly is an incredible tool to use for your writing. But those are like my top three secrets of what I use to write my stuff. So highly recommend all of those. Anyway, but back to, go ahead.
No, and Nicole, you nailed it. Grammarly was going to be one of my recommendations, especially if you are using a ChatGPT or a similar AI, content generation platform. Grammarly can come in and clean a lot of it up.
Oh my God.
It's a combination. The AI certainly has a role. The AI can absolutely help expedite this, but there's got to be a human element to it, because we talked about some of the flaws. It'll pull old data. It'll plagiarize sometimes. Grammarly can catch that. Grammarly, the premium version, does have a plagiarism checker. So if you are using AI for content generation, you better plagiarize check that, or you're running the risk of inadvertent.
And I don't know if people realize this too, but ChatGPT does something sometimes called hallucinates. So if it doesn't know Yeah, if it doesn't know the answer, the bot just fills in the blank. So, and it will come across as very astute and knowledgeable until if it hallucinates and it doesn't know. I mean, you see how fast it gives you the answer. It basically just fills the void in that sentence or paragraph with made up information. So, the amount of times it hallucinates, it's probably, I'm throwing this number out there. Please don't quote me on this, but it's probably like 1 in 500, 1 in 100. Like, it's not all the time, but it's enough that could be really embarrassing too if you didn't check that. And what I mean is like more like dates. If it doesn't know the exact date something happened, or what law it's referring to about something, or even just it kind of runs out of steam in between like transitions. It can, if you've ever seen one, you can Google it. Examples of ChatGPT hallucinations. It's very interesting. So definitely having the human element to pay attention to is crucial here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as people, especially for advisors, like I think the more that people just experiment with, and like, clients or consumers experiment with ChatGPT and other AIs and speaking with them, I do think that similar to robo-advisors, that these tools always just end up being another jumping off point to wanting that personalized experience, but they want it ultimately from a human, right? So that to me is kind of it's the less fun and sexy narrative, but it's the reality to me. I just don't see any type of tools ever like wiping out human advisors. But what I do see is also the ability for advisors and RIAs and wealth managers to also use, ChatGPT or other tools as a way to actually improve not only their client experience, but also their employee experience. And I think that's also an element that's super important. Because I mean, think about how long it does take for, to onboard someone new or to train someone. Imagine if that's something to me that's like really cool to be automated. That's content creation. Create that content for the new employee or whatever it is, or how much time you spend talking to one of your colleagues about how something works. Imagine if that was all automated. Yeah.
And I just, on that note, in terms of, kind of other like implications, one other thing I do think is that as more and more people use these tools to create more content, so maybe someone who really never did blog before starts using this and they're posting more blog posts, we've already kind of have a content glut out there, and just for anybody listening, keep in mind that the more specific you can be, the better. And this is only going to get more, true. But I also think that this is just another reason why getting on video or, audio where it's you talking and it's not an article is going to separate you from the pack. Because right now, at least not yet, no AI bot can, make a video of you talking. Sorry. Or is there one? Maybe it's not as good as the authentic thing.
Yep. I agree with Samantha 100%. I mean, it's kind of what I said at the top, right? No matter what, you can use it to spark the ideas. You can use it as a tool to enhance your ability to create content. But you talking in a video about that, article that you just wrote and why you decided to write it is going to be more powerful and impactful than anything else. People, I mean, look at what's happening on TikTok right now. The trend right now is that you can't just post, trending videos with fun songs or whatever. You really do it's you talking to the camera. In fact, right now they call it like FaceTiming your BFF. That's the trend now. But that's what people are interested in gathering their information. They want to feel like they're getting their information from a friend, from someone they know and trust and has similar values and experiences to them. And so, I mean, that's just as easily applicable if you did it on LinkedIn on a video, or the way that Sam does it. She does it so brilliantly. You don't have to be on TikTok to do that. You can do it all the other places too.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm glad we got the band back together. It's been a year since we did this. As many questions as we answered, we probably created 3 times as many. So if anybody wants to follow up with you guys real quick before we wrap up, Nicole, what's the best way to follow you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be hanging out here on LinkedIn a lot more often. So you can always DM me here. Or I'm on all the platforms actually. So whichever one is your flavor. You like TikTok, I'm there. Instagram, Twitter as well. But my DMs are always open.
Yep. And Sam, what about you?
I'm just going to put a link real quick. You can, of course, find me on LinkedIn and everywhere else, but I have a speakers page that has all of my videos and podcasts and publications and links to all of my pages. So check it out.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should link where you can sign up for my newsletter too.
Yeah, you have to do that. If you're not following Nicole's newsletter, you're missing out. I learn so much from you twice a week.
Gosh, thank you.
Worth another subscription for sure. It's one of the best I get.
And if you want to learn more about some of my work, flackable.com. Find me on social, drop me an email. Happy to continue this conversation. Sam, Nicole, this was awesome. Thanks so much. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to learn and explore with this topic. So eager to catch up with you guys in a few months and see what everything looks like at that
Thanks
point.
for organizing.
Right?
You got it.
Yeah. Right. Awesome seeing you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.